close. It was the most northern one in Whippoorwill.
Fallon gave a proposed list here.
Yes.
So hopefully. Rachel, come on. You guys.
And that's it. Hi there, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, it's 6:02. I am John Measham, board member on Wetlands. Looks like I am going to be overseeing the meeting tonight. We have some people on phoning in. So we have Rachel Gaudio, our chairman, and a couple applicants, it looks like. So we do need to make an amendment to the minutes.
Add the minutes, reading the minutes to the meeting because they were left
Right.
off inadvertently.
So can I get a motion to amend
The
the agenda to include the approval of meeting minutes?
So move. I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Aye.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Okay, so under new business, we have applicant 25-16 Whippoorwill Road, Timothy Sekla. Is there someone here for that? Okay, hearing none. It's an application to replace existing outbuilding, a shed with a larger structure, approximately 16 by 36. So that is on our next site walk on the 7th. Number 2 is 2517, number 64 Grassy Hill Fetus Engineering is the applicant for a proposed 12 by 45 first floor addition with a 370 square foot second story addition, plus a loft and a new septic system. Is there anyone here for that? Yes.
That's engineering. Do you want me to set up the easel or put it on the table?
Sure. I mean, whatever, what you're presenting. So whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'll throw it up on the easel. What's the best spot? This end.
Why don't you come down here because you're really presenting to these guys over here.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
it's okay.
Apologizing to you. Apologizing to the lady on the block there. Is that all right?
This is just intro.
Good evening.
Decision till next month.
My name is Greg Fettis with Fettis Engineering, an office at 70 Essex Street, Mystic, Connecticut. Professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, representing the owner and the contractor for this project. Basically, there's an existing house that you can see the outline underneath. Portion we're not touching, but a portion we're adding a second floor to. And then there's an existing deck that we're adding on to and then closing for a first floor addition. So as part of this, we're also, removing the existing deck. There's an existing septic system that's going to be affected slightly. That's much closer to Rogers Lake than what we're proposing. We're proposing a new code compliant septic system. That's a little bit over 50 feet away. Well, it's already, or there's an existing well now, it's been replaced. It used to be actually in the garage. So that well is here, and the radius and the adjacent property radius kind of forced the system this way. We were able to shorten it up a little bit with one of the new systems that's out there and pull it further away from the lake. We have silt fence located basically down gradient, protecting the waters, Rogers Lake. It's an existing, all this is existing lawn now, so we're not expanding into any kind of developed portion of the property. But that's it. Otherwise, we meet all zoning requirements, anti-tracking pad, and that's it.
Okay. So we will see you on the 7th at 5. Does that sound good?
What's the 7th?
It's a table.
So during the week?
Monday.
Yes.
It's a Monday.
Oh, perfect.
Okay,
At 5 o'clock?
yes.
Great. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is 49 Biscayne Boulevard, application to replace stairs and build a small deck. Is there anyone here for that?
Yep, they're on the.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I'm here. Al Borelli.
so would you
can
like
hear
to
me?
tell us about your project?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna build a small deck. I think it's about 13 by 12. It doesn't protrude past the house. It's in a little alcove that's in the house already existing. There's a staircase there that is basically falling apart. We can't use it. We bought the house a couple of years ago, knowing that we had to replace that staircase there. And that's what we're doing. It's not a big deck. It's very, very small.
Okay, I did see the footprint on the plan, so I appreciate that. We will see you on the 7th at 5:45, if that's possible.
5:45, sure. The 7th.
Yes,
We
sir.
got it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
All right, next on the agenda is 15 Whippoorwill Road. Application to install a 10 by 20 foot shed west of the garage. Is there anyone here for that? Yes, sir. Just come on up.
What would you like to do?
Can have a seat.
You have the paperwork?
We have your application, yes.
Excellent. Yeah, brought to you. Okay, here we go. What we would like to do is, if this is the property at 15, here is our house in the garage in the best vernal pond in the state of Connecticut, which once was a riverway, which used to go from Mill Pond down to the end of Jericho. Then when suburbanization took place, turned into a cranberry bog, and now there are vernal ponds here and there, and ours is still the best. And we would like to put a shed right next to the garage structure. We have an overflow of tools, rakes, possible lawn tractor, and the garage really is a home for cars, not mowers.
Right.
So we would like to put this structure here, which will fit in quietly with the neighborhood's theme, and go from there.
And is this a pre-built shed?
Yes, it'll
So-
be trucked in
Yep.
and dropped there.
And the company that is doing the shed is doing the site work?
Yeah, what do they call them again? Well, they have those catchy ads they play in the morning. Come to Cloder Farm.
So, just curious about the best vernal pool in
Yes.
Connecticut. Is that just you saying it's a vernal pool, or has somebody else identified it as a?
It
vernal
is,
pool,
it's some, yes, Mrs. Roach, who used to be, I don't think she's alive anymore, from Connecticut College, used to bring biology classes there. There's more fairy shrimp there than you're going to find in any vernal pool in
Oh,
Connecticut.
wow. Okay.
And clam shrimp. If you had $1 for every clam shrimp, you wouldn't be sitting here right now.
All right. So,
When would you like to come visit us?
15 Whippoorwill, how about 5:15 on the 7th?
We'll be there.
Awesome.
Look forward to it.
to it.
Wonderful. Thank you all
I'm sorry,
very much.
anybody have anything? No.
Yeah, sure. See you then.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Eric.
Yeah, this should have been emailed out to you. I have copies if you need it. Basically, this is notification by state DEP. They received an application for pesticide application. It's along Lieutenant River, just south of Soundview Hollow Road on Longacre Lane. We don't have a lot of jurisdiction here, but we can give comments if you'd like to give comments back. Again, I do have copies of what they've given to us. I don't know if any of you have through them. Absent me giving comments back, there's nothing really on the agenda for you to do on the application. Because again, it's sort of a state DEP permit that we were just given notice of. So I did, yes, go ahead, Michael.
I just, is there a comment period usually within 30 days?
There is a comment period. We're within the comment.
Are we within the comment period time
I
or?
believe we are. We just got this in not too long ago, so I think we are within the comment period.
It was just last week.
Yeah.
Usually 30 days, I would guess.
So, yeah, we can make comments at this point, which is we, again, literally just got it within the last
Okay.
week or so. So if you'd like to make comments, again, yeah, I can give you a hard
Well,
copy.
I've got a copy, so I'll just take a look at it and generally I haven't seen one. This is since I've been on.
No.
Did you get them regularly?
I don't get them often. I get them
Occasionally.
maybe twice a year, and I
Okay.
try and get them out of the commission. So when I get them, you'll see them. And again, this is the first one I've gotten in, I would say in about 6 months. I think I got one in very beginning of the year. But again, I get maybe 2 or 3 a year of these. So I will try and make sure that you guys see them, you know, as soon as I get them, and we are within the comment period. So. Does the commission as a whole want to make comments, or do Michael, you just want to make comment individually, or?
I might just, send you comments individually.
That's fine.
I just haven't had a chance. I haven't been viable enough.
No, I
to look
understand.
at it.
Again, we have time. But I didn't, again, if the commission doesn't want to act as a commission on this, that's fine. But at this point, again, I will wait to hear from you within the next, hopefully, week or so. And then if you give me comments, I'll make sure that they get into DEP.
What's the deadline?
I'm going to go with, let's see, let me look at my calendar, to see when I got this in. Okay, I got this in on the 17th, I believe. So 30 days out from that, since June is 30 days, would be the 17th of July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rachel, do you want to hop in at all on this?
I was gonna say, if the commission wants to do something, I just wouldn't sign off on it. I would recuse myself just because of my occupation and my employment with DEEP.
Okay. Do you want to circulate your commentary, Mike, or?
Well, let's see if I'm going to submit a comment first. And
Okay.
if I do write one up, I'll give it to Eric.
Yeah, again, it could be that we submit it individually on his behalf, or we could send it out to the commission. The commission could let me know what they want to do with it, but I'll wait and see what we get.
Okay.
Generally, if they're using a relatively non-toxic situation, and usually I don't have any comment. DEEP usually kind of puts most of the conditions on their approvals. It's a courtesy to send it to us because I don't know that we have joint jurisdiction, but we have overlapping jurisdiction.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure that we have a quote unquote role here beyond giving advice. We did sort of advice and consent stuff, but again, if there was something you felt strongly about, we'll make sure that you hear about.
Okay, number 6 on the agenda is a fee schedule proposal for the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. So this is an update to our fee schedule that hasn't changed in many years.
We also have, we have fee schedule. We also have sort of updated application that Colin's working on, because the application itself is kind of outdated. So we can pass that around as well.
Also, they've used drafted fee waiver reduction forms, just in the chance that you also want to start using those with applications.
And again, we don't usually waive fees, but we've had people in the last 6 months or so who've asked for fee waivers for one reason or another, whether it's town applications or otherwise. So we would try to create a standard form for a fee waiver request. Just because, people don't know how to make them, and we're sort of getting things all over all of the map. So
I've seen them. Yeah.
and again, sort of self-explanatory from Fallon. She did a lot of research on neighboring towns to see what neighboring towns are offering. We are not at the present covering our costs. The other thing it does now sort of explicitly call out is our ability to collect fees if we are going to experts. It also calls out that if we do need to renotice, that it's on the applicants to pay for the costs of renoticing. So we're trying to make sure that we're doing more to if not break even, to at least to make sure we're collecting the appropriate amount of fees. And the commission has its own authority to set fees. So if this is something that you want to do, it would require a motion of the commission to just adopt the new fee schedule.
So I did look at this, and I appreciate the bar graph because that answers a lot of questions as far as where Old Lyme is in regards to other towns and their fees. So, I think obviously we're overdue for this. And
Yes.
the current fee schedule really puts us in the median. So we're not, we're not charging too much. We're not charging too little. So I would be in favor of adopting the fee schedule as proposed.
Yeah, I looked at it last night. I'm on the same page as that.
I tend to agree with what John has said. The only thing I would like to know is how does our fee schedule relate to the amount of dollars we generate annually? And I did do a little research on that.
Okay.
Apparently in the last fiscal budget, we raised about $4,000. That's independent of, I'm just happy they didn't combine all land use together because then it makes it more complex. But I would tend to think we ought to look at it a little closer, at least for a month, and think about things like how much time does it take for staff to do X? An example might be, okay, with an application, we know that staff members go out with us and they probably do at the end when they get a final, everything's finished, go out again. So there's 2 site visits.
As Phil can tell you, on a lot of these, I go out every 30 days just to check on silt fences and everything else.
But, we might want to think about, okay, how much is it costing us just to do the basics? And does the fee that we collect cover that? Now, I would agree that some things are very simple. A shed, I think, should be, nominal. But something that's more sophisticated, like a house or a site that you have to go out to a lot. And I haven't really looked at it closely enough to know if when the staff has to go out multiple times to do compliance, each visit should maybe be $150 or something. Whatever, I'd figure out the hourly salary and then multiply it by the time that it takes to do the work. Because we have the ability to, recoup the costs that the town is paying out to do the work that we do. But generally, the fees looked good. The only other comment I thought was, and it used to confuse me when I looked at our application form, I'd like to see kind of the application form separate from the fees so that maybe the fees are in back. And I know when I was in that position to try and figure out what the fee was, usually staff has to determine it for the applicant because there's so many options. That was just an overall comment, but I'd like to have just a month to look at it and make some additional suggestions if anybody agrees with me that some activities, especially associated with violations, I think we should be charging more for if the staff is really going out because of issues on a site. And it would be a bigger site, it'd be a house probably.
If you'll notice, again, one of the first things mentioned is on the fee schedule, fees are doubled if you apply post start of the work. So we are attempting to make some adjustment for that. Obviously, take the time you need. We don't meet in August, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we do meet in July, right?
You meet in July.
June. But we do have a month.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no deadline on this. This isn't an application where the timeline is running.
Do you have well, it depends on the types of applications you get as to how many dollars you would, are they kind of doubled or I didn't really look at them that closely. It went from 25 minimum to.
By $25 to $50.
So, to your point, under commercial industrial, it went from 250 to 400. So, I mean, to me, that's pretty significant. And that's one of the bigger projects that we would see.
Yep.
And then, there's an additional wetland crossing fee. The initial preliminary review fee has gone from 25 to 50, so that's doubled. Pool shed outbuilding 75 to 125, house structures requiring excavation, foundation, septic, and driveway 100 to 150. I mean, I could see maybe putting that up a little bit more.
But I just would like to, have a little time to think about it, but I'd like to relate the size of the fee to the amount of work that we're doing. Like a shed, I think should be phenomenal.
I'll be honest, Michael, we're never gonna cover all of the costs 100%.
Well, I know, I appreciate that because
There's no harm in putting on next month and after review thought.
I understand. I mean, if you want time, by all means, take the time, but there's a balance to be made of how much we're gonna recoup versus, what people have done or expected for fees, so.
I agree, but my finance board used to be very friendly when they saw an increase in our revenue each year. Or as a matter of fact, they used to ask us, when did you last raise your fees? It was a regular question when I did my budget.
Both, Martha, the selectman side and the Board of Finance this year were pressing me on, so what about the revenue side? So that's part of why we're doing this. And again, I agree, it would be nice to cover more of our fees, and as you are well aware, things like legal notices and such are just outrageous at the moment. So anything we can do to cover any of that is certainly all to the good. But, obviously, we're not gonna cover half a Fallon's salary, a quarter of my salary,
Right.
plus, all of that by fees alone, so.
Well, then I was also trying to get a feel for how much is actually spent on the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission activities and land use. And so our budget is around 300,000, I think. Actual might be a little lower than that this year, 270-ish. But I would think wetlands and zoning probably, based on my membership on the planning commission, take up the bulk of that money.
I would suspect you're correct, though ZBA has a fairly hefty budget.
Oh, I forgot about, they're mixed in too.
So, yeah, I mean, we can try and sort out what percentage goes to what, but I mean, again, Fallon is planning wetlands, so theoretically half and half for first salary one way or the other. I cover 4 different boards, plus I'm a floodplain manager and a bunch of other things, so hard to figure out exactly what percentage of my salary we're trying to cover here. Again, we're trying to make sure we cover more of our costs, but there's no way realistically we're going to cover all of our costs through fees.
And then the only other comment I have, and I was looking at, and obviously I have an experience with the town that I work with, but I don't think we're really relevant to that town. But I did look at East Lyme, who had a very interesting checklist that should be attached to our application form. And you might, depending on what the applicant's proposing, have different requirements, a more detailed map or for more complex activities. But I don't know if I would imagine.
Application requirements are listed at the bottom of the first page.
Yeah.
And this is generally like, I looked at East Lyme's. I had like 10 different towns that I looked at, and I pretty much like used our wording for it, but this is what East Lyme's application looks like.
Yep. They don't have the fee structure built in though. I think it's.
I think we sort of exhausted the discussion so far here.
There you go.
What is the commission's pleasure for what we would like to do with this?
You guys want to table this or?
I'd like to suggest we just consider it next month and act on it next month.
Or you want to make a motion then, Mike?
I so move that we delay action on this item until the July meeting.
All right, I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. We'll table that for next week. I will turn over the helm to Madam Chairwoman.
You've been doing such a good job. You don't want to keep going?
It's all you.
All right. Item number 7 under new business is changes to the inland wetlands and watercourses statutes and the watercourse buffers.
We do have copies of what Michael sent in this morning, to hand out to people, so, thank you, sir.
And I think the governor's signed all of it. At least signed this one. These two.
As opposed to the 5,002, which you didn't sign, so, okay.
My only comments, I think, just in summary, is one is going to require some point that all of us be trained online. right now the DEP training site is down. I'm not sure when it would be up again. That's going to affect all of us. And then the second one is really establishing a task force that looks at recommending buffers for water courses. There was actually some buffer legislation proposed this year that went farther than a lot of the folks that proposed it thought it would go, but they decided to study it a bit for the next session and consider it again. But there's a lot of push to thinking that we ought to have more specific buffers for water courses. I mean, we are the Inland Wetlands and Water Courses Agency, and we tend to forget about water courses, but we have some very significant water courses in this town that have some spectacular high quality water and lots of our natural resources. So it'll be interesting to watch that next year. Rather than an informational mention, I thought that's all we needed.
Thanks, Michael.
Nothing really to add other than, again, as Michael said, at some point you will be required during your 4-year terms to complete the training course that DEP has online. More information as we have that, but as Michael said, the site is down at the moment. So even if you wanted to go and take the course, you're not able to do so at the moment. So when it is back up, I will try and let you know. And again, theoretically, once during your term, you're obligated to complete it. And then let me know. I have a spreadsheet already on my computer upstairs, and it's my job every year to transmit to the first select person a list of who has done what training. So there's no penalty on my part for not transmitting, but I do have it already on the spreadsheet to keep track.
There was also an attempt to allow other types of training to be counted for commissioners. I mean, I was able through the town to attend a wetland training session at the extension center in Haddam, I guess it is. And it was very good. An introduction, kind of a legal introduction to the Inland Wetland Act, but then also a functional analysis by a really sophisticated wetland scientist, Josh Wilson. I'm going to give those links. They're not online yet. Once they're online, I'll give them to Eric to distribute. But it seems to me if you spend 3 hours at a seminar, or if you go to the annual Connecticut Association of Inland Wetland and Conservation Commission meeting, which is a day thing, you ought to get credit for that as well. It's not in the statute, but I would bet that DEEP would be will ultimately allow those types of training as well, because it could provide something more sophisticated than an online course. I mean, you might go out and be able to look at some wetland soils, identify wetland plants actually in the field, which would even be more helpful than I think the online course. We'll see.
Anything else? Okay. On the next item, old business, we did get an email from the applicants, which I made sure you guys saw, that indicated that they have requested that we leave this matter open until next month. They've waived the automatic approval. They are still trying to get contractors to work with them on the excavation of the pond. So I would just request that this matter be tabled until the next month.
Do you need a formal motion?
Why don't you just make a motion?
I'll make a motion to table this until next month, given the ask from the applicant themselves.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections, abstentions? Seeing none, passes unanimously.
That brings us to 308-1 Mile Creek. As you folks mostly recall, we had a site walk there. I sort of leave it to the property owner. I'm sort of a little up in the air as to where we are. We do have a motion that was approved by this board, an order that's approved by this commission, not appealed. We do have what I interpreted as a request by the applicant to modify it per the requests before per the report of their expert. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to decide where we are and what we should do going forward.
For the record, Attorney William McCoy representing the applicant. I think I'll blame both Joe Wren and Joe Thoreau and I for being here tonight. As Eric has indicated in prior correspondence I've gotten from him, this is a matter that was decided by this commission and approved with conditions. This should not be considered to be our correspondence in May based upon a report in April by Joe Thoreau. Is not intended to be a further application, but rather, I guess I would best describe it as a concerns that we have as a group as to whether or not what Mr. Thoreau has identified in his May 13th, 2025 letter may be a better approach to the mitigation of property than what was developed by the town in its commission decision. We don't do that as a matter of insult. And obviously we are prepared to meet the terms and conditions of the approval and conditions. So if the commission is not interested in looking at other alternatives as identified in the report of April 13th, we're happy to withdraw whatever it is you want to consider this to be and simply go along with the decision of the commission with the clear understanding on the record that we believe that what's proposed in the April 13th letter potentially is a better remediation program than was put together at the last meeting of the commission when it decided this. But again, we don't wish to complicate this. We currently were under the obligation under the original decision to provide a mitigation plan together with bonding requirements. We provided those to Eric, and I think in a timely fashion. And so if you wish to simply kick it back to Eric to review the plan and to establish the bonding, we're fine with that. But we do want to go on record that some of what has been proposed with respect to the conditions for the mitigation are perhaps potentially in the long term counterproductive, but it's this commission's decision and we'll live with it either way. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Again, I think at this point, it was the commission, you've got 2 or 2.5 alternatives here. One of which is keep your original order in place and just tell me to enforce the original order. 2 is adopt some or potentially all of Mr. Thoreau's suggestions and let me know where you want to go. At this point in time, you guys were out in the sidewalk, you saw the conditions in the field. I don't know if that has any effect on where you are with this, but again, as you've heard from the applicant at this point, they're willing to live with the original conditions. They weren't appealed, so that's where we are. I'll sort of let you guys decide where to go from here.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I have some commentary on Mr. Thoreau's report, and especially after going on the site walk. In his own report, Mr. Thoreau said that the millings in the road, which he is requesting to not remove part of, he actually says the millings are swept into the wetlands on the western side, meaning the road. And during our site visit, it was very plain that the millings, or whatever they are, towards the top of the road that is steeper, were weeping and eroding down the road after the heavy rain. So what goes up comes down. You can try to leave whatever's there. Eventually that's going to get swept into the river, just like the other millings. And we keep calling them millings, but we don't really know as a commission where they came from, what their origin is, or what their actual makeup is. Because I mean, just walking down the road, you can see there's objects in there that look like roofing material or tar, or it doesn't really look like strictly sweepings.
I think we're in commission discussion.
As far as the remediation or the removal of the boulders, Mr. Thoreau is concerned about a steep slope. And the fact is, we don't know what slope was there before the unpermitted work was done. So is there a lack of a slope because there was material removed to place the boulders in, or is that slope become that way, or lack of a slope because of the boulders being put there? Again, that's, we don't have a crystal ball to go back and see what was there before this unpermitted work was done, and that's why we're here again. So if you look at the aerial photos, it appears that the road may even be wider than it used to be. So the idea that we're going to increase erosion there or do more harm than good with remediation, I am not moved by that report. There's, he noted that the river will sweep across the roadbed in numerous areas and in the silt ponds, and also discussed not wanting to remove the berm on the road. This all goes back to the size of the pipe. So if the applicant is not happy with the conditions that were put forth by this commission because of some of these conditions that are occurring, to me, I think it all goes back to the size of the pipe. So if you want to not do some of this remediation, bring us an engineering report and a resizing of the pipe, because that's what most of this goes back to. He even notes a properly sized and permitted culvert would alleviate flooding, debris entanglement, and the head water backing up. I'm sorry, that's not Mr. Thoreau, but that is Ms. Raina Volvalsky, who is also a certified soil scientist, who was nice enough to go on the site walk and email us. And I agree with that assessment. And she also goes on to say that the argument of placing sedimentation control would be difficult and removal of the boulders would create more impact is not accurate. So I can appreciate, Mr. Thoreau's opinion, but we have at least one other opinion that is valid. So again, I'm not moved by trying to amend the conditions that this commission put on.
Thanks, John. Michael, I saw.
I was the culprit that encouraged the application to try and initially resolve this violation. We ultimately got an application. It wasn't easy. We had to actually start court action to get an application. If this had been kind of a typical application where an applicant comes before us with no activity on the site, we evaluate the activity and we put conditions on it, and the applicant doesn't like the conditions, they can come back and ask for modification, which we could consider. They could appeal our approval. In this instance, the applicant didn't appeal our permit with conditions. I would kind of go along with the applicant, letting them withdraw the proposal. And if they want to do other and comply with the conditions of the permit. Based on the field investigation or the site visit that I did, it was obvious to me that the culverts are failing. Water is piping around the pipes, not necessarily, I don't know why it wasn't going through them at the time that we were there. But it always seems to be wet and darker when we're there. And there was a lot of, we only had 0.3 of an inch of water that rained that week, and it was flooding over the road. And I also saw, like John and a lot of us saw the millings, or I saw fragments of roof shingles mixed in with the millings were eroding. So I tend to think a lot of our conditions apply. The only one thing that I might have been changing my mind about is when I went on the upstream side of the culvert, there are 2 boulders that are really close to that culvert. And if this was just comparing 2 site visits, it looked like the road was starting to erode away around the culverts. And I would be willing to leave two of those boulders adjacent to the culvert till the applicant comes back with other proposals to maybe enhance the size of the culvert so we don't get flooding with a new application. But to leave those boulders that were immediately adjacent to where we saw the erosion on the upstream side of that road. I tend to think if we have a real big hurricane this season, that road's going to be washed out. It's certainly going to have a lot of water flowing over it and be gullied. The applicant also proposed more activities in wetlands, which we didn't even review or see. The details were in the plans, but I don't think we can take those up. Those should be proposed under a new application if that's what he wants to do. But then I think the applicant should be prepared to understand that we may be hiring our own consultants to figure out why is the flooding happening on the site? Are these berms that are proposed or that we've even allowed to be removed doing anything to solve the owner's problem? I mean, we should hire our own engineer to evaluate that. But other than leaving those two boulders that are in an area that I think where the road is threatened to be washed out in the next major storm, I think our permit conditions are fine and should be implemented. And then the applicant always can come back. Well, we know they're going to come back because they have to do sedimentation ponds and stuff. So it's, they'll be coming back and we can do further analysis there. But I certainly want to see more professional analysis on why flooding is happening on that site.
Okay. Any other comments?
If I could be heard briefly.
Yes.
As I indicated to you, my client is prepared to meet the terms and conditions of your decision and conditions. Our purpose in providing the documentation we provided is essentially to make you aware as a commission that there are concerns about how the future is going to hold regardless of what we do here. But of concern to me, and I need to put this on the record professionally, the purpose of that site walk was a site walk. It was not intended to get any further information on the record as to what's going on at that site. It is concerning to me that one of the commission members alludes to documentation that's provided by somebody that went on the site walk as to their evaluation of things after the public hearing is closed. That is very concerning to me, and I want to put that on the record. That site walk was not intended to provide further evidence after the public hearing closed. So, having said that, again, as I've indicated and one of your commissioners has alluded to, we're prepared to essentially withdraw our concerns, if you will, officially, and meet the terms and conditions. But I want to be clear on the record that as an applicant, my client wants to be very clear that some of what's going on here in terms of the degradation of wetlands may be further exacerbated by what is going to happen pursuant to this permit. And so, again, that's your decision as a commission. You've made that decision and we'll live with it.
So I'm not sure about your conclusion that you just made, that there was some kind of analysis. There was commentary on Mr. Thoreau's report that he submitted to this commission.
That is correct. And that report was submitted to this commission as a condition of your approval, not as a reopening of the public hearing.
We didn't reopen the public hearing.
Well, you took testimony from a member of the public that you just alluded to.
They sent it
If
to
we're
us.
keeping what we said at the last meeting, our order, that testimony doesn't matter because we're not changing.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that comment was made on the record and I therefore am responding to it. It's as simple as that.
It would be part of the record anyway because it was sent to the commission.
We don't have an open public hearing, but again, this is an ongoing matter and the commission retains jurisdiction, and someone submitted evidence on an ongoing matter, which the commission has received. I understand your concern that the commission is relying on this evidence, but at this point, if the commission is not changing its pre-existing order, then I don't think that there is any issue that somehow they've been biased by an additional piece of correspondence that came in when you're already conceding they have the perfect right to live within the order you've already not appealed. So I understand your concern. I'm not sure that from a procedural standpoint that there's been any defect.
And I guess my last comment then, Eric, is this. To the extent that we are going to be back before this commission, I want to be real clear that the evidence that's taken in by this commission has to be limited to the record on any public hearing.
If there is a new application, then we will open a new record, and anything that has to be brought into the new record.
Okay.
So if someone wants this report into the new record, they will need to move that this report be included in the record, and you will have to sort of address that at the time that they make that motion.
Thank you.
But as of right now, there is no open public hearing. And I agree with you on that count.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it seems,
I just have a, John, what do you think about my comment on the two boulders right near the culvert? I don't know if you saw or concerned about the eroding. I think it had eroded about 6 to 8 inches. I was just afraid if we pull those boulders, we could lose the road in the next storm.
I for one don't want to get into reconditioning conditions that we've already.
I tend to agree with you.
so it seems like from the two of your comments, it seems like we're just gonna keep the order
Yeah,
as it stands.
And I do not want a new motion because a new motion creates a new appeal period.
Right.
Your decision is tell the applicant to proceed as previously ordered, then that's what we're going to do. And I do not want a motion to that effect because that creates a new appeal that we don't want to start. Okay. So I'll just take that sense. I think the applicant's heard that sense and we will move forward on that basis. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the next one.
The one issue, the one outstanding issue, Eric, is it relates to the bonding. What
I will now
we do.
what I will now do is take your bond and I will forward it to Jacobson's office and I will say, is this bond sufficient? And I'll get back to you with whatever they have to say about that.
Fair.
I will do that first thing tomorrow morning, but I had held off on doing that until I knew where the commission was going. I will do that first thing tomorrow. Okay.
So the commission's aware, one of the reasons for that is that you can't start work until that.
Again, I had held off because my understanding was that that bond was based on your proposed activity. I will again forward the bond amount with it, the order to the Jacobson's office tomorrow morning, and I will let you know what they say as soon as we hear back. Okay.
So it's just so you know, the understanding is you can approve the work that once it's completed.
I will review the work. If I need additional expertise, I will hire someone to go in there and do additional review. The commission will only see it if I believe that there is some violation that the commission needs to see. I will be providing reports back to the commission just on a regular basis saying this is where we are, but no further commission approval will be required beyond this point. Okay?
So I'll make sure.
We good? Okay, so I'm going to move to the next matter. 16 Neck Road to Sharon Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Per your last meeting, they have until tomorrow to post the $50,000 bond. They are also supposed to be coming back with proposal to do, in fact, to have done already some sort of erosion control measures. They have not. The site looks largely as you remember it from your last site walk out there. In fact, I saw Mr. Sweeney out there yesterday morning, and he has done work now around the detention basin.
Not Mr. Sweeney, but
That's the other gentleman's name.
the other gentleman.
But Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney was out there.
Okay,
Okay,
two sites.
so yeah, I'm not, this is not a mistake. This is not, I really saw Mr. Sweeney out there yesterday. Okay. So yeah.
Using us.
So, and again, he has done work around the detention basin. I was out there this morning. There was exposed soil around that detention basin. But again, no further erosion control measures have been done on the other side of that road. The swale down the side of the road still looks as you recall. The silt fencing that leads into the wetlands on the side of the road there has not been updated or replaced in any way, shape, or form. The hay bales that you saw up road from the detention basins are still there and are deteriorating. So per your previous minutes, I think at this point, you're going to need to increase the bond to the full $100,000. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point?
Yeah, so my understanding was he had until this meeting to post half.
Theoretically, the minutes say he had 30 days from the 25th, from the 27th, rather, which is your last one. So if that would be through tomorrow, I would be, we're not going to see the bond. And in any event, whether or not we're seeing the $50,000 bond per your last meeting minutes, absent his efforts to put in erosion controls, you were supposed to increase the bond to $100,000 at this meeting.
100,000, not 400,000.
100,000, I'm sorry.
100,000.
1,007. I'm sorry, if I was on.
I thought it was in
I know
30
we're increasing
days.
our
I'm
fees.
not sure the minutes are accurate because I thought it was,
Okay,
he had until this meeting, because if he did not perform by this meeting, we would.
no, I fully, again, you're gonna be increasing it anyway. I think immaterial of whether he's given the 50,000, which he's not giving. I think you're gonna be increasing it to $100,000 anyway, because again, he had until this meeting to take some sort of action on that site. I understand from talking to his engineer that he has not been in touch with his engineer, Greg Fettis, who was here this evening. So again, there are no new engineered plans. There is no new work on the site that is designed to control erosion. He is still working further uphill. He was out, there was a excavator out there this morning. I think you were saying putting a septic in or something.
So let me help you. We did clean out the detention basins. There's 4 of them as you come down the hill. We put overflow pipes in them so that the water will go in the pipe, drop in the back. Those are being maintained. There is no further silt going into the wetlands. And you can go there and you can see it now that there's no further. Since we've been putting those basins in and we've been bailing them out, they're doing their job. They're settling as they come down the hill. What we're doing on the right side of the driveway going up there now is we're stabilizing and finishing and seeding. So the whole right side from the detention basin that's there, going up to the stone house, we're putting seeds in that and finishing it now, including around the pond. So the pond is going to meet its 3-to-1 slopes. Whoever was there before, I don't know what happened, but it's going to meet 3-to-1 slopes from the back of the wall to the asphalt. That whole area on the right-hand side, as of right now, if you buy there tonight, has been topsoiled and seeded. We have some fine tuning to do to get it so that the water will stay in and do what it's supposed to do. So it approaches that basin and then it'll go across the street. Unfortunately, whoever designed that, you have water on the left side and then you directly discharge to the wetlands. That should have never happened. The basin that's on the right side should have been on the left side. So when it comes down the hill, it fills up, goes in the top, goes in the back of that basin, goes across the street, back into that secondary basin and goes across it. Unfortunately, it didn't get designed that way. So, and as Eric told me that there's a lot of trees that were cut that weren't supposed to be cut, that will obviously would stabilize the land long term. But currently, I think, there is no additional sand and silt going into the wetlands from the past. It's actually growing, everything's growing up and growing through that sand. Not that it's any better or any worse, but nothing's went over. The hay bales that are there, they're doing their job and they're not going to do it to the end of the job. That goes without saying, but the hay bales are the best Silt fence will never make it there. Every time the silt fence gets up, there's so much silt that comes down that hill that it just knocks the fence down. And that's what happened. So we created these basins with pipes in them that control the flow control pipes. So they'll fill up. The hay bales are doing what they need to do. Can they be added? Yeah, we added another 40 bales to that since this last meeting. We added 40 more bales there, and we backed them with soil so that they're holding that back, that material back, that sand and the silt that's coming out. But if you go there right now, nothing breached. It's going into that main. You'll see that I dug it out. I take the silt out. You got to clean it out. Obviously, it gets less and less because there's less and less disturbance on the top of the hill. So less disturbance, but there's going to be more disturbance. Once they put another house in there, there'll be more disturbance. So I feel like if we can start topsoiling and seeding and start protecting the area, even if we create the berms and maintain those silt basins until the project's over, that basin needs to stay in there if you're going out on the right side, because there isn't any. What I would propose is if that structure that's, as you come in, that structure that's on the right, when that pond fills up, it dumps into the top of the structure and there's actually a slot in the face of it. If we went into the back of the basin, that's on the right side of the road going out, created that same structure with a pond there and left it there until the project was over, it would go in that basin, go across the street, get into that next basin, go into that overflow, and then go into the wetlands. It would create multiple dumps before it could get in there. I made the recommendation. They're not going to pay for an engineer to engineer it. I really think it's a solution to keeping 90% of that water out of it. The balance, the 10% would be from that basin, where that basin is, into the actual wetlands. That I think you could maintain with silt fence. That silt fence that hill, it won't hold silt fence, wind, rain, the storms, it just knocks that silt fence. It's not strong enough. The hay bales haven't, you gotta tell me the hay bales that we stacked up there are still there. They're in place. I'm not saying that they're not, they don't get old and they need to be replaced. They do get wet and they get crunchy, but they're gonna need maintained. But more importantly, I think if we can move back and start seeding and prepping the area, we'll have a better chance of protecting what's there, what's not.
I guess I have several questions or comments. One of which is, has the applicant authorized you to come here and speak on their behalf?
He has not.
Okay. So I have no understanding of what your authority is to ask the commission to do any of this.
All I was volunteering the information of what we're doing on the site so that they're aware of what's happening on the site, because I'm doing the work.
Okay, so the next question is, can you submit an application that contains the work that you are proposing to do so the commission can evaluate it properly?
Eric, I have a recommendation.
Sure.
I mean, I was wondering what our next step was going to be. At least I've heard something that makes a little much more sense than what I saw when we were last out there. Now, how you get Ron's stuff so that you can evaluate it might be our engineer consultant out there, have him do a sketch. Obviously, the owner's got to authorize you to do stuff.
Well, and I gotta be honest, if I have Jacobson go out there, it's gonna be whoppingly expensive. And I can tell you right now that Lucido does not have the money to pay his own engineer, let alone our engineer, to go out there and do the kind of work that would be required to be done.
On the face of it, what Mr. Swaney is saying makes sense to me. You've really got to start to stabilize the upland. It's nowhere near our regulated areas, unfortunately, but it's all coming down and impacting them.
Your regulated area by statute is anywhere that is going to eventually come into that. So the 100 foot is 100 foot, but you can be beyond 100.
Unless there's erosion, I would agree, but
So, you have,
if you stick with me, getting it stabilized, even if it's in sections, makes sense. The more grass that's growing on disturbed areas, we're still gonna get runoff, but it'll be less than what's there now. I mean, what other alternatives do we have?
I agree, but I would love to see a written proposal that says any of this from somebody who's authorized to submit it,
I know,
so that I can then take it and have it looked at by somebody who knows what they're looking at and say, yes, this will work, or no, this will not work. Right now, I don't have any of that.
but what I'm saying is we might, given that we aren't gonna get a detailed engineered drawing from
No,
the owner,
any kind of write-up at all.
okay? But I'm
Something-
saying if our engineer met with Mr. Swaney, Mr. Swaney explains what he proposes to do. I don't know. It sounds like it could work, depending on the size. If our engineer kind of feels that could work and gave us not a detailed drawing, but a sketch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're not gonna have anything. You
We
know,
have to get Nacito to write something.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah,
he's not communicating with
And
Aaron,
you have somebody authorized by the applicant coming here, giving you something
I know.
orally with nothing on paper. And we're sort of in a position.
I agree. We need some authorization. I'm hoping you get paid, but I don't know.
I mean, ultimately,
I tried to protect my baby.
yeah, I understand that we're not gonna get an engineered plan for all of this. That would be lovely if we could,
No,
but we need at least something on paper, given the history of this site.
and how do we get that, Eric, is what I'm saying. Can we have
maybe
something
Ron can
that's,
talk to
yeah.
Mr. Nacito.
Ultimately, it's Nacito's responsibility to get it to us, right? It's his property,
yeah,
at least for now.
but if he does, so, okay, so let's say he doesn't do anything and unfortunately, Mr. Swaney's ideas and stuff don't get implemented. Then what's our next chess?
Litigation.
Okay,
Yeah.
And at
And
that point, we start litigation, because there's just, the site is not going to get better.
I know, but is litigation going to help?
I don't know.
If he's doing nothing, then yes.
I mean, we're not getting the $100,000 bond we asked for, right? We're never seeing that.
No,
So we're not seeing, you asked for for a location of the foundation for that site at 2 Sharon. We're not getting that. All the things you asked for, we're not getting. So if we're not getting all the things we asked for, I don't see that we've got much choice but to go to court.
no.
I don't know if it's gonna help, but we can't do
What's
any
the
worse.
judge
than
gonna
we
do? A
have.
judge can't order him to spend money he doesn't have.
No, but if he gives us a lien, at that point in time, we can lien the property, and then when inevitably it gets
So
sold.
that
or
would
whatever.
really be our next step. I guess that might be the only next step.
I mean, it,
I don't think one.
No,
yeah, but the lien would survive, so.
Yeah,
But the site still erodes. That's what I'm saying, is it still erodes while this is, if, let's say the court case takes 6 to 8 months, if we're lucky, a
2
year.
years, 2-3 years.
I
It's gonna
was
erode
supposed to have
for 2
trial on
years.
Thursday, it just got moved again, so, and it's been 3.5 years, so.
Yeah, it's not gonna be pretty, and it's not gonna take anything like what you think it's gonna take.
There'll be goldenrod growing there in 2 years. Don't worry. about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
but not if we don't
ultimately,
seed and there's no
it's not
topsoil.
great. But I mean, here's the thing, based on the guy I had out there from Jacobson's office, the silt already in the wetlands, he estimated would take 2 guys with shovels and a wheelbarrow a year to get out of there. Because he doesn't want it out mechanically, because that would just further disturb the wetland. So I don't know what it would cost to get 2 guys and a wheelbarrow out there for a year. But that's, again, at some point, there's going to need to be some way to make this go.
So why don't we, thinking out of the box, let Mr. Swaney get some authorization from the owner to do what you're doing?
Yeah, I don't want to put the onus on Mr. Swaney. The onus is on the owner, Mr. Nacito,
Yeah.
who is absent, who has failed to perform. And I'm going to make a motion to increase the bond to $100,000. And ball's in his court.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. You can tell Mr. Nacito what happened here tonight.
It wasn't here, so that I thought they were coming.
Maybe you
Yeah.
got the date wrong again.
But then, you know, at the next meeting, if we still haven't heard from him, then maybe we do call Ed and just say, let's get started. Because he already knows about this case, so. Okay,
I'll see what I can do about getting a plan for it.
thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Just getting an authorization from him.
I think ultimately
That's the solution.
it's gonna be the best solution.
Okay.
All right,
Great.
thanks again.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
All right, so next is the meeting minutes. I think I was missing from the last meeting. Pretty sure I got stuck in Hartford. So,
Questions for the last.
I don't think we got the minutes.
And I-
Did we? Did I miss the minutes? Did we get the minutes?
They're posted on
Yeah.
the town's website.
Oh, okay, so I didn't, I was just out of it.
all good. I think Tom looked at them because I wasn't there. So
If-
anyway, any motions to approve?
These are two sets, the site visit and the
Site
last
visit.
regular meeting. I move that we approve the minutes for those, for the site visit and our last regular meeting,
Any
whatever the
second?
date is.
Second that.
Great, thank you.
Discussion,
Seeing none.
discussion.
No, I don't know. Discussion. And then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I'll abstain from both. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So.
Okay,
It's not.
thanks, everyone.